This is John Cole with GrowingYourGreens.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, and here I'm still at the Eco Farm Conference. If you guys saw the last episode was like my summary of the Eco Farm Conference. And you know, I went to a lot of different speakers and heard a lot of different presentations. I learned a lot of stuff, but as you guys will know, like I'm not going to be able to interview like many of the speakers here, but there's one that I actually had to corner. I stayed late tonight to do that for you through like dinner, through an award ceremony, and 3 hours later, I finally got this guy cornered, and we're getting him an interview for you guys because I believe it is so valuable. One of my favorite presentations that I went to this year was this guy's talk. There was like two different speakers, but he by far was a better speaker, conveyed more information, and more importantly, more information that will help me, but also help you guys in your quest for growing food organically. Because, I mean, he's talking about something that I wish I had more information on, but this is what he specialized in. This is Dr. Olkowski, and he has a PhD in entomology from UC Berkeley way back in the day. And I mean, he wrote this book, partly, The Urban House. This is like back, copyright 1977. I think this is out of print. He also has other books on like basically how to garden without using pesticides and all this kind of stuff, right? Even organic pesticides, right? He's not in favor of using organic pesticides, maybe as a last control, because what he's really into is using the beneficials. So anyways, what we're gonna get into in this episode is actually, we're gonna explain to you guys why it's so important not to just be spraying stuff, even if it is organic, and some tips that you guys can use so that you don't have to spray anything in the first place, and so you could not have bugs in the first place. So one of the things I wanted to talk to Dr. Olkowski about today is basically allowing some plants in your garden to actually attract the insects. We have this mentality in our society today, like bad bacteria, it's bad. We need that hand sanitizer to kill them all, man, kill all the bugs. But see, when we're killing the bugs, the bacteria in our hands, we're killing not only the bad bugs, but we're killing the good bugs as well. And you know, nature, he had slides in his presentation today, that nature is in cycles and there's an equilibrium balance. So we need to have the good, we need to have the bad. There needs to be good forces out there, there needs to be bad forces, and they're gonna hopefully balance out, and hopefully the good's gonna overrun the bad. And that's how nature set things up, because if nature didn't set things up so that good always prevailed over the bad, we wouldn't be alive today, right? Then who knows, all the diseases.
We'd be covered in bugs.
Yeah, we'd be covered in bugs. But, and that's just one part of nature, right? And so, I mean, some of his techniques are like, may sound kind of weird, but hey, we want to like have some plants and just let them grow and let them attract some aphids, but these aphids may not go to your other plants. And then once there are aphids there, what's going to happen is good bugs are going to fly around, because good bugs are out there, and guess what? They want to either eat the bad bugs, they want to like lay eggs in them, they want to do all kind of parasitize them, I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff. And then then those beneficials are going to transfer over to your vegetables when the aphids are there. And if you don't ever leave any aphids, you always kill them all, you're never going to have any beneficials. So Dr. Olkowski, do you want to talk more about this kind of concept that I explained?
Well, I would like to see people think about seeding in commercially available predators and parasites. See, as a seed, you don't have to spend a lot of time or money on it, but you can leave them in your garden, and they'll find their way or find the food, which is other pests, you know. And so sometimes when you're starting a new garden, it's been so devastated in the environment, there's no food there for the natural enemies. So this would be a way to seed them in. Just buy them from Rincon Vitova or some commercial.
So what are some of these things they should seed in, you know, some of these predatory insects?
Predatory mites, for instance, would be a good one. And they're cheap. There's two species that are commonly available, especially in greenhouses or indoor environments. But there's others too. There's lacewings. These are sold in the egg stage usually, and you get a sort of a shaker and you shake them out on the plants. And they'll hatch into a sort of an alligator-like thing, maybe a quarter of an inch long, and they'll eat caterpillars, aphids, they'll eat scales, mealybugs, all kinds of things. And so that's a commercially available thing that you can buy a little seed. You can also attract them in with artificial honeydews, which is an interesting idea, but I don't think you need to get too elaborate about it. You can just buy the organisms and put them in, and you'll have them around. You'll see them And the thing to do, you may want to, I used to like to buy these things so I could learn to look at them and identify them, because they're already in your garden probably, or they're gonna be in your garden after you grow something. And be a little more tolerant. You can tolerate some bugs, and that's how you learn. Get a hand lens, 15x, and you learn how to look at the leaves and hold it up to you gotta check the light coming down so you can learn how to look at it. Because when I used to work under the microscope, I could, 60x power was what our working microscopes were like. And you could see a lot of detail, but you can learn to look through the little hand lens for the same kind of detail. What I used to do is learn how everything looked under the big scope, then move to the hand lens, and that's what I used in the field, because you can't carry your microscope out there. And you got to learn what these animals look like. And it's a marvelous experience to see some of these little critters eating of some other bugs. And that's a learning experience, and it's your investment in the natural world. And it'll be payoff over time for a better garden with less poison.
Wow. Yeah, well said. I mean, I think, so often we think bug, it's bad, let's spray it, right? That's not the answer that nature would have. That's the answer that humans would have. And, if we try to rule over nature, we're bound to fail. We need to just work with nature and live with nature and encourage nature and encourage, different areas of our garden to attract beneficials. Like if you're not growing vegetables, grow some native, grow some flowers that are going to attract these beneficials to your garden or your farm, because they're going to do some of the work for you so that you don't have to spray. If you got beneficials in your garden, they're going to eat all the bad bugs so that you don't have to deal with it, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I don't think I even introduced the praying mantis in my garden, but I'll see a little praying mantis around. I'm like, oh my God, a praying mantis. I got to make sure he doesn't get hurt. He's
That's
a good
right.
guy.
That's a good thing. I put them in because I like to look at them. They're really spectacular things, but they eat all kinds of things. They eat bees, they eat they're a generalist predator. And the other little trick I should pass on is straw piles. I learned this myself. You put a bunch of straw out, maybe 6 to 8 inches high, put a little water on it, and the straw starts decomposing over the next few days or weeks, depending upon the moisture. And the decomposing straw produces a little bit of a gnat or something tiny. And then what happens is spiders are coming in all the time. They're flowed in, and they'll start eating those little critters, because small spiders have to have small food. And then they eat each other. The spiders end up being cannibalistic, and you'll see on the top of that pile of straw a big hairy wolf spider. These are spiders that they run across the ground. They don't have webs, and they're powerful predators. And so that's what'll happen is you'll essentially create your own natural enemies. You don't have to buy them, but I'm not against buying them.
So another point that I want to talk to you guys about before we get into the tips of this episode is I have a kind of a motto with pest control of escalation. So for example, the first thing I do if I see aphids on my plants, I got my fingers. I'm gonna smush the aphids with my fingers. I'm gonna pick off caterpillars or hornworms off my plants. I'm gonna go out there at night with my UV light to see them floss fluorescence or whatever like that.
Or even a flashlight.
Yeah, flashlight, and go out at night with my headlamp on to find my slugs and snails, because the slugs come out at night, right? Yeah. And then I'll pick them off. But and then that's the first step, manual control, me use my physical labor. Maybe if I had kids, I'd get them involved. And then the second step, if I can't do all that with the aphids, for example, I'll spray them and hose them off with water. And I'll spray them off with a high pressure water to see.
Hand picking is a good idea. Hand picking is a really simple thing. You can do a lot of simple stuff like that. But when the population gets big, you gotta move into other strategies.
Yeah. So the next thing I'll do is I'll spray the soap. And that's the next strategy, and then maybe, hopefully, I might do it a couple times, and I'm not just going to spray water once, oh, it didn't work, and then go to the next thing. I'm going to continue, maybe wait a day, spray again, and then go back to even smushing, and then I'll do the soap, escalate it higher, and then maybe after the soap, what would be a good thing to do after soap?
Well, pyrethrin is your last ditch.
Well, that's last, but after soap, I might do I might do like a soap with neem oil or something like that.
Neem oil would be good.
Or maybe some kind of like, maybe before that step, I might do diatomaceous earth, depending on the insect. And then maybe then if the neem oil and Dr. Bronner's didn't go, then the pyrethrin. It's much
pyrethrin
harder.
is your last stop. It's a very short-lived material. You have an immediate effect, doesn't stay around, and it's virtually non-toxic. But you got to protect yourself whenever you use an insecticide, even soap. Some people get allergic to everything. So I'd like to avoid those things, but sometimes if you want to save your crop, you know, in a garden, you can always plant more. You don't have to really go nuts about this thing, you know. Some people like to think of the natural world to clean it up. And I think it's a losing battle, you know, is don't clean it up. It's kind of great the way it is. Just learn how to see it and you work with it. So
awesome. Yeah, I mean, another thing that I say is I have sometimes if it's just so bad, I don't even try to spray it. I just sacrifice a plant, sacrificial plant. I cut the plant out. I don't even put it in my compost if there's like a lot of insects on it. I might send it off site to get rid of it. And you know, that's the step before I might even spray the pyrethrin. And you know, spraying anything on your property, whether it's even the Dr. Bronner's and neem or the pyrethrin or even using diatomaceous earth, can have a negative impact, not only on the bad bugs, but also the good ones. So then you could be literally shooting yourself in the foot because now you're killing the good bugs that would be eating your bad bugs otherwise. So you should really, in my opinion, try not to spray.
Especially if you don't know what you're doing. You know, if you don't know how to recognize the beneficials, you could just be killing things that are going to be beneficial. There's sometimes you see a big black ground beetle. A lot of people kill those. They think they're roaches. They just don't know how to see them. And you got to learn how to see them or look around for more information. Information now is so widespread. A little search on Google will come up with lots of information. There's free information everywhere. So educate yourself. Oh, the other one I'd like to tell people about is sweet alyssum. I almost forgot that. And sweet alyssum is a little low-growing plant. They're different colors. The white one's a nice little flower. You can put it on borders or beds, and it seeds itself in. And the little natural enemy that comes to that will feed on mites, caterpillar eggs, all kinds of little critters. And it's called Aureus is the genus. It's a plant bug. It's a predaceous plant bug, small, tiny little thing. And it takes a while to learn to spot it. But if you put sweet alyssum in and start looking at the blossoms after a while, you'll see them in there eating the fluids from the blossoms. Sweet alyssum, I've seen it it seeds itself in the grape areas. I was driving down here to Eco Farm, and I saw these patches of white along the roadsides of grape vineyards. And they're hip to it now. Maybe they know that story, you know.
Wow. Yeah, so I guess, so those are some tips, but now I want to get into the real tips so that you guys don't have to spray and use these tips before you even think about spraying anything, because good growing practice and good gardening practice is the key to actually avoid having to spray anything in the first place. I mean, one of my biggest tips is to grow high quality plants. The more, you know, nutrient dense and high bricks, more nutrients are in your soil, the better the plant could actually create proteins and create more complex proteins that bugs cannot digest complex proteins. So, I mean, using compost is one of those excellent ways. And let's hear some more of these tips from Dr. Bill.
Well,
any comments?
Well, that's a good intro. I mean, I'll give you a series of tips that I learned. And one of them is transplanting. First, transplanting means that you grow the seedling in a warm place inside the house, for instance, and then you put it out, and you wait put it out when the first true leaves show up, because before the first true leaves, the plant is sensitive to damage. A snail or a slug can come through and kill off a lot of seedlings in one night, and then all your time and effort's been wasted. Now, if you get it out in the seedling and get it started, you're getting it past the most vulnerable stage in the plant's life. So you got to transplant. And when you transplant, you then wait, and now all the other problems show up. Now, tips to think about is plant materials that raise another insect that doesn't go on your crop. And one of these is anise, fennel, which in my area it's a weed. But it has its own aphid. And the way this works is that aphid doesn't go on your crops. So it has its own natural enemies that come in and eat on the aphid. And when it eats up the aphids on the fennel, it moves over on broccoli aphids or other aphids that are in your garden. So you want to have alternative plant materials that you grow, or as weeds, or even old broccoli plants. You don't have to pull them out when they're finished producing broccoli. Just let them go to seed, and that'll get the pest will stay on it. The pest aphid particularly, broccoli's got a problem with an aphid. So now you can have the natural enemies on that aphid survive and help you with the next crop of broccoli. So those are like little tips you can sort of learn how to use those. And look at your weeds. Look at your weeds, and you get yourself a hand lens and study the insects on those weeds, because sometimes, very likely, the weed has its own pests. And they're not going to go on your crops. They're different kind of animals. There's 5,000 species of aphids. There's all kinds of animals, thrips. They can use the same idea for other plant materials. There's actually catalogs that you can buy. Cornflower Farms, for instance, has a catalog of plants that you can grow that attract beneficial insects. And so that's one of your strategies, is seed them in. And I also recommend compost. Compost changes the fertility, conserves water, and but you got to watch out. Some of the animals like to live in compost. When you go out and look for damage, and you see some damage, you might have to look around for a cutworm. With a little stick go around the plant. If you've seen the seedlings been chewed up, it may be a cutworm, very likely, in fact. So you got to look at the plants that are being damaged to understand who it is that's eating on you. Birds have beak marks in leaves, and you might want to put a screen over those. And let's see what I can think of other things. Snail barriers. You have the copper strips. You can buy those, or you can use electrical. Apparently you said.
Yeah, the electrical fences for slugs, basically, and the iron. The
Sluggo is a ferrous ammonium sulfate is a bait for slugs and snails. It degrades into a fertilizer, and so that's not a really bad slugicide, I guess you call it. The one that metaldehyde is the bad one, because the dogs can eat it and die. So I always avoid the metaldehyde. And then you can even put rings, cardboard rings around your seedlings. And they're sort of a semi-permeable barrier. The slugs will go along, or the snails will come along and hit the little cardboard barrier.
So it's like a little circle of cardboard, like a little wall, like you're making a fort for your plant.
Yeah, they can climb over it, but likely not. So it's just a strategy. It's cheap and it's easy and it's something to do. Now, the other idea I had that might be useful to many people is let the seedlings, let some of your plants go to seed. Carrots, chard is a good one. And you have these chard stalks grow up and seeds spew all over the place. So the little seedlings that come up, when you want to plant something else in that spot, you pull the seedling up and you have a salad with those little guys. And that helps take up the niches for weeds. And so everything else you can handle mostly by hand, if you've got a small enough space. And you can also tolerate a lot of damage. Plant extra. If you have a pest problem that's really chronic, it's going to show up every year, plant extra, don't worry about it, give it away, so it gets destroyed. You're not on a production farm, you can tolerate things. Fact is, most gardeners are always busy giving away their extra tomatoes and stuff, so don't worry about it. So I think that's a few little tips that might open up things for you. There's other things. In my area in Southern California, we have lizards in our garden. And the lizards eat ants. And I always like to keep the ant population down, because ants don't like water. They like to protect their colonies from moisture because they live in the soil. So you can flood ants out and discourage them from being in that area. And ants protect aphids. And so you want to keep the ant population down and discourage, get them to move away from your plants. So you can also trap slugs and snails by upside down flower pots. They love to go into that terracotta kind of thing. So I used to pick them, just put the pots out, turn them over. If there's a snail or slug in it, crush it, and that'll attract the next slug or snail. So you can build traps like that are very simple, and you just leave the flower pots here and there. What else I can think of? We have anything on that list? We have a list. We were going to try and work off an outline of barriers you can use for gophers and vertebrates that may come in. Rabbits, squirrels. We used to have ground squirrel problems. I used to put each particular fruit, like a squash, I used to build a little cage for, so the squirrels wouldn't eat it. You know, the damn squirrels would come in and eat my squash and take a big chunk out of it, you know. And so I like to do that. And the other thing, in our area, we had a lot of snakes, rattlesnakes. And so I made sure my plants were high so I could look under them, so I wouldn't be surprised by finding a rattlesnake in my garden, which is not the greatest thing to find, you know, especially when they're real close.
What about planting flowers?
Oh, flowers, I'm glad you reminded me of that. Flowers, beneficial insects eat nectar. And so that gives them some more life, and they'll stay in your garden. So diversify your garden with, got extra space somewhere, put some flowers in. Nasturtiums are good. Everybody likes nasturtiums. They're easy, they're cheap.
And they're edible.
And they're edible too. That's the other thing that's kind of fun. You can plant things like that. And what else? Extra floral nectaries. Anise is another one that's got extra floral nectaries. And they feed, they're honeydew. It's essentially a sweetener from the plant that feeds the beneficial insects. So the other thing is just tolerate some pests. It's not the end of the world, and you learn what the animal looks like, how to identify it again, and you watch for natural enemies in on those exotic aphids or something, whatever, on your broccoli. Just watch them, and you'll see that you'll learn to identify the natural enemies that are killing the aphid, and that's something to learn about. So how's that for a few little tips?
That's great. So, I mean, I wish you were here to get all his tips at his talk. I mean, I'm going to share with some of you guys his tips in my last episode. But he also wrote a book on this. Unfortunately, the book is out of print, but still available on Amazon. So what's this book that I wish it was still in print, because this is what everybody needs to learn about growing organically, is not just picking up an organic spray, but the steps to do before you even pick up the spray.
Well, you can look on Amazon for Olkowski, my last name, and there's a book I reprinted now and that my wife and I wrote back in the 1970s, called The City People's Book of Raising Food. And it has a nice little chapter on soils and plant nutrition, some composting tips, and it's written in a very nice style. And we used to sell it for $5 or something. I don't know what Amazon's selling it for now, but it was a nice readable book. There are some really thick, heavy books that I've written. One is called Common Sense Pest Control.
Yeah, that one.
It gives you it's a 700-page book, which we used to joke that we want to control the insects, you drop the book on them. But now you can actually look in that book and get a real good introduction to insects, the natural enemies, and the tools that are used against the pests that are non-toxic. There's soap solutions. There's water, just washing things with water. Oh, roses were another one we tried to talk about. Roses have their own aphids, so again, that aphid doesn't go over on broccoli, doesn't go over on other of your garden plants. And so you can actually learn how to use those plants for your own benefit, you know. So how's that, okay?
That's awesome. So, Dr. Olkowski, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, read your blog, read all the information you've put online, that he's been doing this for gardening 40, 50 years now, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, I have a blog, you know. I roam and put poetry on it, got my paintings and stuff, and And there's some articles there that might be useful to you. It's called The Entomological Philosopher. And so it's kind of, you can roam around. You can write me there. It's just an email address and just search. Or search for my name. You might find my books through my name. Olkowski, like an old cow on a ski.
All right, Doctor. Thanks you for being on the show today. If you guys enjoyed this episode, hey, please be sure to give a thumbs up to let me know. Also, be sure to do some of the practices he says. It'll definitely improve your gardening and your organic gardening style. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below because the next episode, also with Dr. Olkowski, is one more about basically using good bugs to kill the bad bugs so that you don't have to. So stay tuned for that. And of course, be sure to check my past episodes. I have over 1,200 episodes now on this YouTube channel dedicated to teaching you guys all aspects of growing food biologically and organically. So with that, my name is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time. And until then, remember, keep on growing.